Avengers Doomsday is said to start off with an action-packed fight scene and never take its foot off the gas. It's supposed to start off huge and really never slow down, according to many different insiders at this point in time. And we know that there are going to be just a ton of fights throughout this entire movie in many different shapes and forms. For example, we know that there's going to be an Avengers versus the X-Men scene. We also know that there's probably going to be a multiversal Avengers team assembled by Loki that goes up against Doctor Doom. We've also heard that the Thunderbolts, or the new Avengers, might possibly fight the OG Avengers at first in a little kind of civil war as they kind of debate or fight because they have differences of opinions of Doom and how to go about saving the multiverse. We know there's going to be a ton of fights, and unlike Avengers Infinity War, where we had multiple teams separated from each other, never coming together to actually fight against Thanos, we've heard that yes, the teams will kind of be dispersed a little throughout the entire movie, but we've heard they ultimately do come together to all fight against Doctor Doom, in which we assume they're still going to lose because Secret Wars is supposed to be Battleworld. Plus, we've seen those leaked photos of Doctor Doom on his throne with Doctor Strange to his side and Sue Storm and Franklin Richards on the other side. So we assume Doom still wins. But throughout the entire movie, there are very specific fight sequences that are supposed to happen. Most of them kind of what we've heard so far are all relating to Avengers versus the X-Men, which is going to be a pretty crazy scene. But Fandom Wire put together a list of all of the fight scenes that we are supposed to get that have been reported on or rumored so far for Avengers Doomsday. So let's go over them, because this movie, if these fight scenes happen, it's going to be just absolutely insane. Now, the first one is Loki versus Doctor Doom. I feel like this one, even before we kind of knew anything about Avengers Doomsday, when we heard that it was Doom and we basically saw that it was Doomsday and Secret Wars, we all pretty much knew that Battleworld was going to be coming in Secret Wars. We obviously realized that for Doom to kind of take over the multiverse or for it to be destroyed, he's going to have to come in contact with Loki because he's kind of holding everything together right now. So somehow we knew Doom was going to be going up against Loki. In fact, early reports told us that Doom is actually after Loki. He's specifically seeking him out because, well, again, he's holding the multiverse together. This scene is going to be what I would assume is very magical. Sorcery. Just a visual masterpiece is what I can envision in my head for this fight scene, because Doctor Doom has tech and he has magic. Loki should kind of have the same, since he's basically in charge of the TVA. He should have access to some TVA tech, but I am assuming that Doctor Doom does as well, and they both, of course, have magical capabilities. Who knows what Loki has ascended to since we last saw him? Who knows, looking into the multiverse, what he has learned and what he has seen? I'm assuming that he's seen Doctor Doom and has an idea of what he can do, but probably hasn't witnessed his full potential. So this scene should be incredible. The next one, if we see this, which I do believe we are in some way, shape, or form, but when we see this, I should say, I think people's minds are going to melt. Mine melts just thinking about it. Mr. Fantastic, Cyclops, and Captain America versus Doctor Doom. I love this. This is essentially the leaders of the teams, the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, and the X-Men. And before you talk about Chris Evans as Captain America not being the leader of the Avengers team because Sam Wilson's supposed to be the leader, well, the Russo brothers just did a whole big, long article in Empire magazine about how the story basically is not necessarily centered around Steve Rogers, Chris Evans as Captain America, but he plays a major role in the movie. And he's going to reunite with the rest of the heroes. So I think he takes charge again. I think he becomes the leader again. This should be a pretty incredible scene. I don't think Doctor Doom wins too easily, but he wins, right? Like, going against Captain America could have some good strategies against him, but keep in mind, Doom is also a genius, but Cyclops is a tactician. And hopefully the MCU, the Russo brothers, do him way more justice than he was done in the past. Hopefully it's more like X-Men 97 and not like the first X-Men film. And Mr. Fantastic, he has more fight scenes we're going to talk about. They really have to show him in a way different light than they showed him in the Fantastic Four first steps, because if they show him like they showed him in that, he probably doesn't really stand a chance in these fights. But let's continue on. This one, when I heard about, I thought could be, and probably will be, very interesting to see. The Sentry / the Void against Professor X. The original leak that we heard about this was that Professor X tries to essentially rid Sentry of the Void, which is really interesting because if he does that, then we will essentially have Sentry without the dark side, which means he should be in full control of his powers, which means he should be a formidable foe against Doctor Doom. Physically, at least. But once Doctor Doom starts to use some sorcery, that might be a different story. But nonetheless, that should be an incredible fight. So I think they fight it first because it's more of the Void taking over Sentry. And I think Professor X goes inside of his mind and tries to rid him of the Void. Hopefully, it doesn't end up like Multiverse of Madness when Professor X tried to go inside of Wanda's head and it was deleted pretty much very easily, it seemed. I really hope we don't see Professor X die again. I think the audience is split like 50-50 so far on whether they think he's going to live or die. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Also, let me know who you think would win these fights. Moving on to the next one. This one I thought was interesting. Captain Marvel versus Monica Rambeau. I don't know about this one because I don't really see how or why they would fight. Unless they were somehow manipulated and possibly being controlled by Doctor Doom. Because from what we've heard, Captain Marvel's whole MO in Avengers Doomsday is finding Monica Rambeau, because that's where we left off at the end of the Marvels. She went to a different universe. We know she's with the X-Men. We know our Avengers are going to the X-Men universe, but they have been painted as the villain. According to some leaks that we've heard, Doom is basically going to tell them, hey, the X-Men are the villains because they've been destroying all these other universes. But we've heard they've been destroying these other universes because they have been dealing with incursions, and that's the only way to survive. But it's easy to see how Doom could paint them as the villains. This one doesn't quite make sense to me unless they are somehow being brainwashed or mind controlled in some way, shape, or form. This one I think is going to be really cool. I'd love to know who you think would win this one. Captain America versus Cyclops. My money's on Cyclops, because I love Cyclops. This is going to be cool. You can already imagine like optic blast going off against the shield. Hopefully they take some pages from the comics where Cyclops reflects it and bounces it off of different surfaces and uses his tactician mind. And physically, you know, Captain America does have the super soldier serum. So it should be very interesting. Very, very interesting. Captain's going to use the shield to deflect the optic blast and get close to him. But hopefully they'll show him using his optic blast to kind of push himself away and maybe even blast up into the air and then catch himself as he falls like we saw in X-Men 97. Who do you think would win this fight? This next one, I thought this would be pretty cool hand-to-hand combat when I first heard about it. Yelena versus Mystique. Who do you have winning? It's going to be a fun fight because, you know, and Mystique's probably going to fight multiple people and turn into them as she fights them, or turn into somebody else as she fights them to confuse them, but also to confuse their allies. So you can see how Yelena starts fighting Mystique. Mystique turns into Yelena, sorry. And people are like, oh no, which one's the real one? That's kind of a classic, you know, thing that they've done in TV and in movies, etc. But I think this will be a very good hand-to-hand combat fight. But let me know what you think. Who do you have winning? This next one, this is going to be a cool one, but it's kind of weird because anyone going up against Doctor Doom, you kind of just imagine that they lose. The next one is supposed to be Gambit versus Doctor Doom. Now, in my last video, I also talked about Thor going up against Doctor Doom, and Thor getting his butt kicked is what we've heard. If the God of Thunder gets his butt kicked against Doctor Doom, and that's one of the fights, so I'll just throw that out there. But even though we kind of heard Thor's going to lose already, how do you think Gambit's going to do? Don't get me wrong, I love Gambit, and I think Doom beats just pretty much anybody anyways. This fight could be very cool visually, but I am kind of wondering what Gambit is going to do to fight Doom. How is he going to get up close? Obviously, he can charge cards. He's got a lot he can do, but I want to know what you specifically think he will do to kind of hold his own against Dr. Doom. I do think basically when there's this big battle going on, people are going to just go up to Doom and try to attack him. And I think this is where they'll kind of fail at first. I think there's going to be more than one big battle against Doom. And I think at first it's going to be not such a planned fight, but just like, you know, some heroes going up against him, let's take this guy on, and they just kind of go up against him with no plan. And then you see kind of like him, you know, defeat one person, him defeat another, and people basically step up and try to fight him 1v1, which obviously is not a good idea going up against Dr. Doom. But I think that's how we get some of these one-on-one Doom fights. So unfortunately, I think every time Doom is up there, he wins, but you can let me know what you think about that. Now, the next one's interesting. We've heard a lot about this. Steve Rogers versus Peggy Carter. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean he's fighting his wife or baby mama. We don't know if they're married yet. I'm assuming they are. But we have heard also that there's going to be a variant of Peggy that's going to be on Dr. Doom's side. We've also heard that she might, not confirmed obviously, but she might be kind of a witch or have some type of magical or sorcery powers, which if she's with Dr. Doom, sure, maybe she could have taught him. He could have taught her. But this one's going to just be interesting because emotionally for Steve, it's going to be very hard, especially if he leaves Peggy and his son to go fight Doom. And then all of a sudden he's fighting not his wife, but someone who looks pretty much exactly like his wife because she's a variant of her. So this would be, it's going to be a really cool hand-to-hand combat scene, I'm sure. And I would actually prefer if she was Captain Carter than like a witch, because then, you know, shield versus shield, super soldier versus super soldier, and it's going to be really emotional for Steve. And you got to kind of wonder what the backstory for this Peggy Carter would be. But let me know who you think wins that fight. The next one we've heard about, and I think if the movie starts this way, it's just going to be insane. Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man specifically versus Wolverine. We have heard, that's my cat. We have heard that in the beginning of the movie, originally we heard it was supposed to be the X-Men kind of going up against Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. And we've even heard Sir Ian McKellen say that he's going to destroy New Jersey and flood it. Well, he didn't specifically say flood it, he said destroy it, but the comics show flooding. Then we've heard that it's actually Deadpool and Wolverine sent to destroy that universe or sent to fight Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. I don't think they have the ability to destroy the universe. I think Magneto does, because to destroy the universe, you destroy the Earth. So go to the other Earth, take out the heroes, and then destroy it. So I think they might possibly be working with the X-Men, and they simply say, hey, Deadpool and Wolverine, go fight that spider guy. And that's how we get Spider-Man versus Hugh Jackman, or Wolverine. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man versus Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, which can't wait to see. And ultimately, I think they get on the same team, and I think they're going to be key players in Secret Wars. But we'll have to wait and see. Who do you got money on? Who's winning that, Spider-Man or Wolverine? This one I think is going to be insanely cool. I'm actually really looking forward to this one. Shang-Chi versus Gambit. This is going to be a cool one. Really, really cool. And I'm actually just really excited to see both of these characters return. I loved Channing Tatum as Gambit in Deadpool and Wolverine, and Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is one of my favorite movies. But obviously the martial arts, Gambit showed some decent skill in the form of almost kind of martial arts in Deadpool and Wolverine. But of course, it's mostly him charging his cards, his weapons, and I think that's going to be pretty cool. Especially if Shang-Chi has the 10 rings. We're still wondering if Doom is actually going to get the 10 rings or the bangles. We don't know yet, but this should be a really great fight. Who do you got? Who's winning? This next one is interesting, but Mr. Fantastic versus Deadpool. The reason I think it's interesting is because, again, if they show Mr. Fantastic like they showed him in the Fantastic Four First Steps, Deadpool should kill him. Unless he can figure out how to really make his body elastic and absorb the blows from Deadpool, he's going to get cut in half. Now, I believe the Russo brothers are going to do a better job with him, but we'll have to wait and see on that. Actually, I'm pretty sure they're going to do a better job with him, because I'm someone who personally didn't like too much how they portrayed his powers in the Fantastic Four First Steps. Like, Galactus was stretching him, and it wasn't that much. He wasn't stretched that much compared to how he can do it in the comics. nothing similar at all to how he does it in the comics. So I don't know if they're gonna give a brief story about, in the time jump from the Fantastic Four first steps to the post-credit scene, he learned how to stretch a lot more. He trained a lot more for combat. I hope they just say something quick like that. So when we see him in action, he's just a lot more stretchy and can absorb those blows from Deadpool, because Deadpool can regenerate. So unless he learns how to do that, which I do believe he did, but unless he learns how to do that, Deadpool beats him. Then I think we've all heard about this one, Mr. Fantastic versus Nightcrawler. Alan Cumming, who plays Nightcrawler, spilled the beans about this, seems like forever ago now, because we've gotten so much information about the movie. But yeah, they confirmed this already, that he's fighting him. And this should be a very interesting fight. I would say Nightcrawler kind of has the advantage again, unless I would say Reed Richards has figured out how to really stretch a lot to where he could cover a lot of space to essentially capture and catch Nightcrawler as they're fighting. Again, we're going to get an Avengers versus the X-Men scene, and it seems like the Fantastic Four are on the Avengers side. Ultimately, everybody's going to come together, and they're going to fight up against Doctor Doom. That's going to be probably the grand finale, where they literally have everybody. So I think they go against him maybe somewhere in the middle. They don't have everybody, and they don't have necessarily the best plan to go up against him. They go up against him, they lose, he goes away trying to perhaps get to Loki. The Avengers and everybody assemble together, and then they take him on together, and then still end up losing. But that fight should be more of a match for Doom than any previous fight before. So these are just some of the reported and rumored fight sequences that are going to happen in Avengers Doomsday. Which one excites you the most? I would probably have to say, for me, it's Loki versus Doom, Thor versus Doom, and also Captain America, Mr. Fantastic, and Cyclops versus Doom the most. But honestly, I think the Avengers versus the X-Men is going to be pretty awesome as well. And then when everybody comes together to fight against Doom and we see his true power, that's going to be amazing. But let me know your thoughts about this in the comments down below. Which one do you look forward to the most? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest Avengers Doomsday and Marvel news. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, and TikTok. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.